Okay, so our second question in here then is looking at how do sources B and C to a historian studying opinions about the Marshall Plan. Explain using sources B and C and your contextual knowledge. Again, 12 marks, 15 minutes, 3 paragraphs. So, if we look at this source B here then, a poster about the Marshall Plan produced in 1950. So this is more or less at our time. This poster won first prize in a competition sponsored by the European Recovery Programme. The aim of the poster was to capture the goals and spirit of the Marshall Plan. All our colours to the mast, with a whole combination of all our different flags within Europe. Now let's have a look at our other source we've got to look at here, which is a speech by George Marshall himself in 1947. The seeds of communism spread and grow in the evil soil of poverty. The Marshall Plan is directed not against any country or doctrine, but against hunger, poverty, desperation and chaos. Its purpose should be to permit the emergence of conditions in which freedom can exist. Any government which blocks the recovery of our countries cannot expect help from us. Furthermore, governments of political parties which seek to prolong human misery in order to profit politically will meet the opposition of the United States. Now, in nowhere does that actually say, dear Soviet Union, but obviously using our contextual knowledge, we know that that's who it's aimed at here. So the question is, how useful are sources B and C to a historian studying opinions about the Marshall Plan? So, in regards to source B, what we can say is it is useful because it shows, with all our different flags here, how there was cooperation in Europe. The fact that it's got all colours to the mast shows that it's all of those European countries. So what's really important is you're saying what you see in the source, but you're also picking out evidence from within that source to help support that answer. Now, we know that European recovery was funded by the Marshall Plan. So this is all helping us answer this question, how useful are these sources? So this is a useful source because it shows about the cooperation in Europe. By the fact that it says all colours to the mast, helps us understand about the European recovery which was funded by this Marshall Plan. It's obviously a very positive support for what we say European regeneration, which might be a word you've heard used in geography before. Regeneration. So that is making Europe better. Now also we need to so that's source B. We now also need to talk about source C as well. So source C is also useful to us. Now this is coming from an American perspective. First one was European, this one is from an American perspective. It also appears to be quite anti-communist in its emphasis. It talks about wanting to remove poverty and preservation of freedom. So these are all things that are taken directly from the source to help us answer this question. So it is useful to us because it shows us how the Marshall Plan had a very anti-communist emphasis, and its whole reason behind it was to remove poverty and preserve freedom, something that we know the communists were taking away. Now, obviously, you've only got 15 minutes and 3 paragraphs. If you manage to get that down, then that is brilliant. What might be really helpful as well, if you've got a bit of extra time, is to talk about our limitations. So how it is but this source might not be useful. Now, what's interesting about it is this is an American perspective and this is European. Both of these are from Western point of view. At no point do we actually get any kind of feedback or any sort of perspective of our East, of our communists. So our limitation is that these are both Western sources, which obviously only gives us a partial view towards the Marshall Plan. And so you don't actually get the view of the East, of our communists. And if you were to include all of that, that would be a really good answer then, with these two. So you're using the sources, you're picking out particular elements of the source, and you're using your own knowledge to help support it. So you are saying how useful this source is, but also how it is not useful as well. And that would be 12 marks.